One of the cool things about being a farmer is our connection to history. So I want to talk about one of the biggest lessons that history and agriculture, especially agriculture in the South, have for us today. That's probably good to revisit right about now. Right now, I'm at the Fayetteville Arsenal. It's an old U.S. military fort that the Confederacy seized and turned into a bullet factory. And as you can see, there is almost nothing left. It's also very loud because there's an MLK freeway cutting through the middle of it now. After General Sherman marched to the sea, he bounced off the coast and headed to Fayetteville. They actually had to rebuild a skeleton of one of the old towers just to show people what used to be here. A lot of us don't remember this about the U.S. Civil War, but one of the Southern planters' first moves in that Civil War was to start a global trade war, because back then the U.S. was the global source of cotton. Other places grew some cotton, sure, but only the U.S. South grew enough to ship to England and feed the Industrial Revolution textile boom. The Confederacy knew that, and they thought that meant the British Empire needed them so much that the British Empire would just have to come and join the South side in the war and fight the North for them. It helps explain why the Confederacy was so cocky. Sure, they couldn't make their own cannons, but they really thought growing cotton made them so indispensable to the British Empire that they could force the British Empire to come and rescue them from the North. How did they think they could make the British Empire do that? By withholding their cotton, by stopping their exports and bringing English textile mills to a halt, starting a trade war with the British Empire. If we can get the British Empire to fight our wars for us by starting a trade war with them, sounds incredibly foolish. That's because it is. But what can I say? The slavery lifestyle, where you grow up on plantations surrounded by enslaved people, basically prisoners that you can beat and threaten and force to work for you without consequence. I'm going to tell you a little secret. That lifestyle does not build good life skills. Plantation owners saw themselves and marketed themselves as good, solid, sensible family farmers and business people who were on top of society because they were just naturally better at everything. The fact that they owned a lot of people was just a coincidence, of course. But a lot of other people in the South who knew these folks and dealt with them every day did not see them that way. They saw them as rich, spoiled plantation brats who had no idea how to deal with the real world because they were kind of insulated. And history really bore that out. There has never been a better time to learn from plantation owners' mistakes. The leaders of the Confederacy never learned how to negotiate with other people. They had so much power in their home life, in their home counties, and even at the national level in domestic U.S. politics. They'd never in their lives really had to grapple with people who were independent from them, that they couldn't boss around. They really thought the whole world revolved around themselves. And that's why the Confederacy thought they could start a trade war with the British Empire and win, while they were fighting a real war with the North at the same time. And that's why Southern plantation owners cut off their main source of income, selling cotton to England, by starting a very expensive trade war, right when they started a very expensive civil war as well. Very stable genius behavior. Here's the thing about counting on the Brits to rescue you from a war that you started yourself. The British Empire had abolished slavery in 1833 and was still feeling very proud of themselves about it in the 1860s. They were not about to go to war to save some other country's slave owners from themselves. But even more important, a lot of other places around the world could grow huge amounts of cotton. They just didn't yet, because up until 1861, U.S. cotton had been so cheap, there was no way for anybody else to compete. All that changed when the South stopped exporting. All of a sudden, the global cotton market was wide open for anybody else to jump in, and that's exactly what the rest of the world did. Egypt especially jumped in on that opportunity at the first chance. Their government invested in large-scale cotton production and went so all in on cotton they stopped growing much of anything else during the whole U.S. Civil War. The modern Egyptian cotton industry that's still going today, made possible by the U.S. Civil War. Ambulance. So not only did the South lose the trade war, among other things, but the global cotton market never came back. Once other countries got in on growing cotton, they were in for good. There was no normal for the South to get back to after the Civil War, because there was now so much cotton being grown throughout the world, the price was much lower and basically stayed there forever. You do not just start a trade war and think the world is going to wait for you. History has made it pretty clear, over and over again, that anybody who exports bulk agricultural products, the second you're not the cheapest, most reliable source of it anymore, you will be replaced in an instant. Trade wars are a death sentence in agricultural exports. That's what farm history has to teach us. So at the end of the day, the British textile industry didn't want Southern cotton. They just wanted cheap cotton. They didn't care where it came from. So when the South threw a tantrum and stopped selling cotton, thinking it would force the British Empire to fight to get it back, the Brits just said, pass, and started buying it from their new friends in Egypt instead. Because the Brits wanted cheap cotton. And wars are very expensive, especially when you're already busy doing your own little global empire. So that's a history lesson. And it's a history lesson that farmers ought to know better than anybody, especially farmers in the South. We reap what we sow. We reap what we sow every time. And when what we sow is arrogance and taking other people for granted, both the people who buy from us and the people who do the work of running the farm. It doesn't end well. When we don't learn from our own history, that's okay. History's got a funny way of letting us retake the test as many times as we want.